Yeah, now I'm recording. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here today. Hopefully, we'll have fun today and we will learn a little bit about virtual production and a little bit also of how we use artificial intelligence for production. So, let's begin. So, I will give you a general demo pretty fast of what our company does, and I will tell you a little bit about our company. So let me share the screen. Allow me, sharing is turned on. Can you help me, Fernanda, with the sharing thing, please? Okay,
You
thank
can
you.
share now.
Thank you, thank you. Here we go. Okay, guys, thank you very much. So, iDigital, we are iDigital, and we are a general production company, a general filmmaking company, and we do general production services, and also we do specialized production services like robotics and drones and all the difficult, all the challenging technical part of the production. And 5 years ago, we began with this adventure. And I mean, virtual production. Virtual production is, as you know, and maybe you are aware of, it's a very, very, revolutionary technique. And we were amazed as a production company, we were amazed uh, about it and how it has the potential to change everything related to production. So we were fortunate enough to get the advice from an amazing advisor named Scott Ross. Scott Ross was the vice president of Lucasfilms for 9 years, and he was also the general manager of Industrial Light and Magic, that, as you know, is one of the main visual effects companies. He also co-founded Digital Domain with James Cameron. He's still one of the main partners of James Cameron. So he's one of our advisors in the company, and he advised us how to get into the virtual production world. I will ask right now Maria to share our documentary. There's a feature film documentary that shows how he helped us and how this company evolved through these last 4 years. So that's what we do now. We operate and we help some partners in Seattle, some studios such as Vosler in Seattle, in Washington, such as Trilogy in Dallas, Texas, Visual AI in Anaheim, California. We have also an academy in Tijuana, Mexico City, and we now operate also virtual production studio in Mexico City. That's the most complete virtual production studio in Latin America. So that's basically what we do. So let's begin with what it is virtual production. This is the main elements of the virtual production setup or volume. And it's integrated by, of course, the LED background, the volume space, the real objects, and the tracked camera, basically. So I will show you a video that explains perfectly the technique. As you know, one of the main examples of virtual production use is Mandalorian. Mandalorian is awesome. And about 80% of it was done with virtual production. So let's watch this video.
All right, here we go. Thank you. And background action.
The tech is amazing because it allows you to do things that even if you were on location, you couldn't control to that degree.
Action!
I was immediately struck by just the quality of light. As opposed to a stage with blue screens or green screens, you're immediately in that environment.
Because the second season, they built a bigger volume, it allowed the show to feel all the more epic.
I like when visual effects fool you in a way that you don't even know you were fooled.
Jon Favreau brought his vision for a new way of filmmaking, providing filmmakers with flexibility to innovate, create, collaborate, and get final pixel content in real time in a soundstage.
For season 2, there was a number of areas we wanted to improve.
By the second season, ILM developed some software that was specific to this technology and to what the hardware was capable of.
Visual effects is becoming real time.
We're always developing stagecraft to get better and more powerful and more flexible.
Today, I'm particularly excited to be rolling out Stagecraft 2.0. Stagecraft really is an end-to-end solution.
And almost every feature that's in there now came about because of a specific filmmaker request.
Unparalleled rendering power at incredible resolution, both on the walls and on the ceiling.
We've essentially built a platform that we can continue to build upon, from scouting to virtual cameras, motion capture performance, and finally LED volume content.
So whether it's the color pipeline, or the CG rendering, or the software or the hardware, because we are bringing that whole package together with all that experience, we've been able to solve those problems quickly and get to shooting.
It also has forced us into having a more efficient workflow that draws pre-production, post-production, and production all into one continuous pipeline.
When you write and you shoot and you direct, you get so inspired by being on an actual location. That's where you come up with most of your shots. What's wonderful about this system is everyone's on the same page.
And we now have the capability to grab hold of any tree in a forest, of which there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and move them around independently to reset dress on the day based upon what we were seeing through the camera.
Even though the set has not been built, it's built virtually, but we're physically there, and it feels like you're really walking through the space.
It inspires the actors, inspires the filmmaker to now see what they're shooting. You know, it's like painting with the lights on, finally.
Everybody knows what something looks like, how the sequence is going to be put together, where the camera should go. It's all worked out in advance.
For me to be flying around virtually all the different locations, real and virtual, sets that we're going to build and non-sets that were just going to be on the volume, with John, who's in LA and I'm in Austin, and we're going and checking it out together. It's like when we get to shooting, you're not even shooting. It feels like you're reshooting.
You can really, on the day, focus on performance and getting those shots in a really efficient way. As a director, that's what you dream about.
In the past, we would have computer models, or we would have miniatures, or sometimes we'd have photography on set. We can now take all of those things and throw them in together. We can go LiDAR something, we can go on location and fly a drone over some mountains and throw all of that stuff in the mix.
In addition to providing higher quality, using stagecraft can save your production money and time, because otherwise you would have to execute all of this work in a post-production period.
And there are certain shots where you have live action in the foreground, you have a miniature shoot that was texture mapped onto the geometry of a digital environment in the wall, and then in the deep background are stop motion figures that are moving around. So you have all of these different layers of techniques that all come together to hopefully feel like one combined environment, and all of it in real time.
It's mind-blowing. You'll be on a set, and if you just want to change the background, or you want to get a turn around on an actor, you're not physically moving the cameras, you're actually just moving the background, and all the lights change.
Doing a French reverse, where you hit a button and the world rotates 180 degrees, it just speeds up the whole shooting process.
With the iPad, we can bring it up, we can soften it, we can make it stronger, we can move it over there in like seconds. The other great thing is that that's all saved. If we want to come back to it, we can bring it up again in seconds exactly the way it was.
You're not 100% about a background, you think you might want to add something later, you just float a blue or green screen behind them, and now they've got a perfect key, and yet you're getting on the interactive lighting. It's so much faster, so much more accurate. And I mean, it really is inspiring, because there it is. What you see is what you're getting.
All of these things make the volume an even more powerful tool, because it can give you very accurate looks at your story the whole way up until the day where you're actually rolling on your actors.
Stagecraft is incredibly efficient. We're seeing crews cover 30 or 50% more pages per day, which is an incredible improvement for the production process.
We're currently using Unreal for the design phase in the VAD and for previs. We use Houdini, 3D Studio Max, Maya, and any best-in-class visual effects tool to create photoreal virtual environments for the volume.
Because we designed Helios from the ground up for film production, it can handle the most complex scenes and the best color fidelity. It's really the most powerful tool set that we've ever created for filmmaking.
The real power of the Stagecraft team is the ability to respond on the fly to whatever fantastic demands our creative clients need.
It's less so about what Stagecraft could do now, it's more about how we can push it moving forward.
In our company, you do or you don't. There is no try.
We don't have the luxury of waiting 2 quarters, 3 quarters for a piece of software. Instead, we have to be ready in weeks, sometimes days.
You have the best people in the business doing visual effects on this show, and also running this technology, which is relatively new.
You can't rest on your laurels. You have to push forward and find new ways to innovate.
And the pace of innovation is at a breakneck speed, and we're not slowing down our investment in this space.
ILM is really about what have we never done before.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. So it's very important to notice the benefits, the main benefits, as you saw in this video, of virtual production. The first thing is, of course, cost efficiency. It reduces location expenses, travel costs, and set construction by realistic digital environment. So it's amazingly cost efficient to do this in virtual production. Actually, we call it the technique. We nicknamed it, our magic and freedom tool, because we can do any kind of things inside our virtual environment, and we have the freedom because we have everything in a controlled environment. So we have a lot of advantages. Of course, it's related to time savings. As you saw in the video, you can do a company move, a camera move in just the push of a button. And even when you have the lighting, because of the LED is actually the main lighting source, it's very easy to relight all the environment. And also when you program your actual physical lights, the traditional lights such as Fresnels or Asteras or sky panels, if you program them through DMX protocol, and we will discuss this later on, then you can make everything automatic. So with a push of a button, you can change all the environment, and that's a huge game changer related to production. Of course, you have creative flexibility because it allows producers, directors to design limitless photorealistic worlds. You have several techniques to make the backgrounds photorealistic, and we'll discuss that later on also. And so anything you can imagine, you can have it in real time on your volume, and that's awesome. That's game changing. You have improved collaboration. You can collaborate worldwide because you can design everything virtually, and you can use tools such as and the new virtual reality headsets, so you can collaborate remotely, and even scout your environment in 3D in real time with of course virtual reality and augmented reality tools. And you of course have all the control regarding lighting, as we discussed, and weather. If it's raining outside or it's snowing outside, doesn't matter. Everything is contained inside a studio, so you have full control of it. It's more eco-friendly because it reduces dramatically the carbon footprint, minimizing travel, minimizing waste, etc. And actors love it because they're interacting instead of acting against, a funny guy in a green suit and, acting against, tennis ball. They're acting against a natural environment, and it's very, very, very different for them. And it's so fulfilling for them to interact with a natural environment. So those are some of the of course benefits, and you have a much more you're safer, and you have a lot of safe advantages. For instance, if you want to shoot fire, or any kind of difficult effects, it's much safer to shoot them in virtual production, of course. So one of the main things, virtual production against green screen. Let's check out this video.
While filming this scene from Disney's The Mandalorian, the actors could see their surroundings, but the surroundings weren't actually there. All of this is just LED screens, displaying backgrounds pre-made in a video game engine.
I will discuss that, and this is very
Compare that with this fight scene from Avengers Endgame.
Here we
where
have
actors jumped around in a sea of green, imagining how VFX artists would make this planet look once filming had ended.
Films.
The Mandalorian is one of the first major productions to choose LED walls over green screens.
One of the main
benefits
things
for the actors are just the tip of the iceberg.
Most important
LED walls make the lighting better, filming smoother, and in certain cases cost a lot less than using green screens. But to understand why the team behind The Mandalorian chose these LED screens, we have to understand just how they work. Mandalorian showrunner Jon Favreau revolutionized virtual production while directing The Lion King and The Jungle Book. However, the process for these two remakes still relied heavily on blue screen and post-production work. For The Mandalorian, LED wall technology seemed like the next logical step, given the show's production budget and time frame. Now, you may be thinking, this isn't so new. I've seen something like this before. And you're right, kind of. The predecessor to what we see on The Mandalorian is a driving scene like this one from Dr. No. You've got the actor in the car, and behind them, a screen with footage of the road they've travelled. But the technology was limited. Say you want to move the camera angle during the scene. That projected footage can't move with the camera. But by using Unreal Engine, tech borrowed from the video game field, that problem is solved. Artists can create a photorealistic 3D background that moves strictly with the camera's field of view, known as the frustum. So if the camera swings around and changes angles, the background shifts in precisely the same way. This allows motion-tracked cameras to execute traditional cinematography techniques within the virtual set, achieving cinematic movements like the parallax effect, where an object in the foreground moves at a different speed than the background, amplifies the illusion of filming at an actual location. Now that LED screens can move with the camera's eye, virtual sets can solve a bunch of green screen problems. The biggest one probably being lighting.
We've all seen movies, TV shows, where the lighting on the day didn't necessarily match the post-production work that was added many, many months later.
That's Richard Bluff, Industrial Light and Magic's VFX supervisor for The Mandalorian. He says lighting is one of the key benefits of working with virtual sets. The light coming from the LEDs provide realistic colours and reflections on the actors and props, something you simply can't achieve with green screen. They are also able to completely avoid the problem of spill. To better understand that, we talked to Kim Libreri at Epic Games, creators of Unreal Engine, which was used to build the virtual sets for The Mandalorian.
The problem with a green screen is that you have to have a green screen behind you. And what that does is that instead of projecting beautiful lighting from what the environment would be behind you, it basically puts a lot of green light on you. And we call that spill. If you wrap an actor with a big 360 LED wall, you can light in a way that you would never be able to do on a green screen. So you can really make it feel like the characters are embedded in their environments.
This green screen spill would have been an even bigger problem than usual for The Mandalorian, whose main character gets a shiny new suit of armour early on in the season. So realistic lighting from the LEDs makes the show look better, but virtual sets help with practical concerns too. Take this scene in the office of the client, played by Werner Herzog. In a scene like this, surely they just built a simple set, right? Wrong. All of this is that same LED screen. According to Richard, only the desk, the floor, and 1 or 2 columns were really there.
Everything else was displayed on the screen. But this allowed us to limit the amount of stage space that we used in shooting season 1 of The Mandalorian, which has understandably a big impact on time and budget.
To be fair, the initial investment in a virtual set like this is huge. However, the creators claim that money saved from travelling to locations, building new sets, and costly post-production can make the investment worth it. Along with saving time and money, the team developed a system that allowed artists to make changes and control the world on the day of shooting. Settings like exposure, colour, animation playback, and fill lighting are available to the filmmakers at a moment's notice. If they want to move a mountain from one side of the virtual set to the other, they can, right there on set. Not only is it helpful for the actor, who no longer has to imagine where that mountain is, but it's a game changer for the director of photography.
Because in the distance, if there is a mountain range that is a story point, then the DP is no longer guessing where those elements are. He can frame up to them.
The virtual set constructed for season 1 was 75 feet in diameter, 21 feet high, and also had a roof composed of LEDs. The cast and crew referred to this space as the volume.
And we had doors that can kind of close in to almost give you full 360-degree coverage of LED screens minus the floor. It's driven by a small group of machines running Unreal and our stagecraft technologies.
At the end of the day, the big question is, do virtual sets really mean the end for green screens? Well, even The Mandalorian, with its technological advances, used a version of a green screen, but via the LED wall. Another capability of virtual sets is to choose pinpointed areas of the wall and turn those green.
Now, we now have the ability to limit the amount of green screen that's visible behind the character. So now it doesn't wrap around the entire stage, it's just a little piece, but also they gain the lighting from that environment, which gives us a more seamless result in post-production.
Additionally, scenes involving explosives are best kept to traditional methods. This is to prevent LEDs from getting damaged. So will green screens survive this wave of tech innovation?
Eventually, of course, we hope never to use green screen, but I still see that there will be a future for it in the short term, because there's likely always a need to remove people to add additional action behind them. But we are getting to the point where the amount of green screen that's being used is massively reduced, and the sky's the limit right now.
Okay. So do you have any question right now? Okay. As I said, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. There's a comment from Emery. Hello, Ram, well, night to etc. Oh, great. Appreciate it, Emery. Okay, this is a great question. It's from Sima Verma. How much does it cost? Okay, this is a very tricky question now, but fortunately, the technology is getting more affordable by the month. So actually, Kobe is here. Kobe Xiao, he's a partner of Apsen. Apsen is an amazing LED wall manufacturing company. As you know, the LED wall is the most expensive, element of the virtual production workflow. So nowadays you can set up very, very useful volume, full volume, for about $500,000. So it's not that expensive at all because you can do on that volume, a lot of scenes, different kind of scenes. So you can go from $500,000 to 10 mil to 20 mil to $53 million. It depends on the size and specs of it. But the good news is that virtual production is getting more affordable. And right now, fortunately, is happening the same thing that happened in 2007 with digital cameras. Digital cameras were very expensive, and then Red Camera, shipped the Red One camera, and everything changed. So, for instance, there's a company like View that they're offering the virtual production offering is kind of small, but it begins in around 150K. My advice is, to invest around $500,000, 500K, so you can have a very useful, volume. And I'm talking about maybe something like 24 feet by 9 feet that you can do a lot of stuff with it because you have techniques such as set extension. And we will, get into that a little bit later. No problem, Kobe. Okay, so our company did a little bit of changing regarding the traditional way, the traditional workflow that it was established. And this was because we have this amazing advice from Scott Ross, and because we admire so much ILM and Lucasfilms, the way they do things. So we wanted to bring these kind of techniques for much more cheaper budgets, and we want to try the amazing ILM techniques in independent independent film level budget. So we designed this. It looks complex, but I will explain it step by step. So the first thing is pre-production. Pre-production is very important, even for indie filmmakers. It's very, very important. So traditionally, pre-Vs and tech Vs was very expensive to do. It was, done only mainly by, high-end production companies and very, big studios. But nowadays we have amazing, affordable tools to make great, pre-Vs and tech Vs, pre-production. What is tech Vs and pre-Vs? Is using techniques so you can pre-visualize, your actual shot. And this is very important for virtual production and VFX. And we advise you to use a couple of tools that are very, very affordable. One of those tools is Polycam, that's actually free, and the other is CineTracer. CineTracer is very compatible with the complete workflow of virtual production. Let's check this out.
I'm going to 3D scan a little piece of my office here using an iOS app called Polycam, and then show you how to bring that into CineTracer.
So step one is to download Polycam onto your iPhone. And when you first turn it on, you're just going to see a camera, and you'll be able to just start walking around and generally point the camera at the location you're going to scan, and it's going to automatically take the photos for you. From there, you can choose what resolution you want. I chose full, and then it's going to upload it to their server and start turning it into a 3D model. It's done about an hour later, something like that, maybe less, and there it is. Pretty cool, right? The best part is that it's to scale. There are some issues with it, but it's pretty detailed, depending on how well you scanned it. From there, I'm going to export to OBJ, and I use Google Drive. You can also use Dropbox or something else. You're going to get a zip file with an OBJ file and a bunch of maps. We're in Blender now. We're going to import this into Blender and check it out. I have a video on this process in more detail if you want to check that out on YouTube. And there's the model without the texture, but we click our little button, and yeah, it looks just like it did on the phone, and it's pretty close to the real location. We're going to move it up out of the ground, and we're going to hit Control A and apply all transforms. This is for Cinetracer. Then we're going to hit Tab, go to polygon mode, hit A to select all the polygons, and we're going to go to set from faces. This is going to fix the normals that come in from Polycam. This is ready to go to Cinetracer now. We're going to export as FBX and bring it right in. Find the file, and we have our location scan. Next, we can add our metahuman and start doing some work on this one. I'm just going to build a little scene here, adding a camera, sitting down, kind of changing the head pose a little bit. And there's a big hole in the wall, which isn't great, but for now, I'm just going to stick this wall behind it and just...
So as you can see here, basically you're doing an animated storyboard, but not only animated storyboard, you're also planning your camera moves, your tools, such as the dolly. You're also planning the lighting that you will use. And this is very, very useful to plan ahead your shots. And it's very advisable to do that. Okay. The second part of, and this is the most important part of the virtual production, workflow. And this is the actual assets, the actual set you will use. And this is very important because one of the main struggles with virtual production is what the directors of photography and directors call the gameish look. You don't want the gameish look. You want the backgrounds to look real. And this is where we have a couple of techniques that we apply and our clients love, because what we try to do is to, of course, display high resolution, very photorealistic, backgrounds. And that's the key to have a very good virtual production workflow. The first way to go, of course, is the traditional way to model texture and, of course, light a virtual environment. And this is a very nice example. And when you have something very clean or very, industrial, such as this spaceship, the inside of this spaceship, or maybe a very clean museum or a very clean control room, technological control room, or a very clean, I don't know, maybe a very clean industrial space, then you can use this because it's very technical, this technique. And this technique, as you see, is that you use software such as Maya, this is Blender, any kind of 3D, modeling tool. And then you model, very detailed, assets with this technique. As you see, this is an actual very nice time lapse of the way the artist is designing this very high-tech, very industrial look of the inside of a spaceship. And after you do all this, of course, the next step is to light it and also texture it. The texturing is very, very important. A very good way to texture stuff is actually taking pictures of materials and then map those materials on your, look at that, on your, of course, models. Of course, you have a lot of libraries. If you're familiar with Maya or with Blender or with 3D Studio Max, also you have a lot of very, very nice material libraries such as those. and you can apply those materials. So finally, you can create something very, very interesting like this, and when you have this final, model texture with lighting, then you can export it to Unreal. Unreal Engine is the software that allows you to display this in real time, to be able to move that environment in real time and react to the camera movement in real time. So that's the traditional way to do it. The problem with it is that when you have very organic, very complex architecture, sometimes you are not able to, of course, create realistic environments with this technique. This technique is, as I said, better for industrial, for clean setups. What happens if you have something very complex, such Roman architecture or very organic architecture, or something like with a lot of destruction, like a war zone or something like that? Then what we advise is doing the other way around. That's a little bit counterintuitive. And this is usually the workflow is you hire your virtual art department, and I mean your virtual designers, like 3D modelers and 3D designers. And after they design, for instance, what we saw, the architecture inside your spaceship or whatnot, then you hire your physical, practical, production designer, an art department, and you tell them, use the background, use the 3D model, and then replicate the foreground, all the physical elements of the set dressing, similar to the digital background. And I think that's a mistake because, it's very difficult to try to accomplish the match if you go, from the 3D environment to the realistic one. What we advise is the other way around, to first bring to the table the practical production designers, the practical art department, so they can propose, the actual physical characteristics with textures, with patterns, with the palette of it, and build, and design, even if you need to do some actual scale models of it, and then scan it in 3D. Because ILM always says this, Industrial Light and Magic and Lucasfilms always says that there's no more real than the real thing. So the way to go is to scan it. And we have a couple of techniques to scan stuff. One technique, and the most advanced, is photogrammetry. And we will see here that photogrammetry basically is, going to a place or building a model, and then, take a lot of pictures of that model, very detailed pictures of that model, and then bring, those hundreds of pictures that you see here. You can see those pictures here. Bring them to the computer, and with a special software, make the photogrammetry out of it, make a 3D model out of it. The advantage of that, it's the realistic, the way it creates this 3D model is very realistic. You can see a very, very realistic model here. You can see there, and that's a huge advantage. One of the biggest disadvantages is that your object, your asset, will be very complex, very heavy. It will have a lot of, polygons and points. And then your actual software and the Unreal software will struggle with rendering that in real time, and you need it in real time. So the solution to that is to optimize that. You bring this object to Blender, and then you begin cleaning it and optimizing it, so you can have a much lighter, asset. The other problem with this is that if you have lights and shadows and reflections on your actual, location, you can see here in the angel, you have these shadows and you have a little bit of reflection here. You can see it. Then it will be embedded on your object. It will always be there. So you cannot easily relight that. And usually that's a challenge, because if your director of photography tells you that he wants another angle, of the, spotlight on that angel, then you will struggle with that, because you have the, shadows and reflections locked up on your objects already, because you scan it with those shadows and reflections. The other problem that you can see here is that with some detailed objects, you will have artifacts. You can see it here in this, lamp or whatever it is. And then the closer things won't be as precise. So maybe you need to, remodel some of those things. You can see here, you have amazing results with the background, but you have problems with these couple of, lamps. And this is because these lamps might have a lot of reflections, and reflections are not good for photogrammetry. Things like metal or glass or those kind of reflective materials will struggle with this technique. And the solution is maybe you need those objects to remodel them from the ground up. So this is photogrammetry. Any questions regarding photogrammetry? Have a couple of questions here. Is there a specific learning order for the technology or software using virtual production, Blender, and Unreal 3D Max? Should you integrate them all at the same time? Yeah, that's a great question. What I advise, and the good news is, it's totally free. This software is totally free. Is learn Blender and learn Unreal. Blender for designing your assets, and Unreal to learn how to make the layout for real time and optimize them for real time. So both softwares, Blender and Unreal, as I said, they are totally free. Of course, the challenge is you might need a capable computer. My advice, if you want to only learn, the new Mac Mini M4 is very good for learning, not producing. For learning is very good and very affordable. But if you want to invest in the future, you should have a gaming machine with at least an NVIDIA RTX 3060. And you have amazing new graphic cards, such as the 4060 and 4070, that are amazing. And it's you can invest on that, and it's a very good investment. So yeah, my advice is go to Blender and go to Unreal. You have a lot of tutorials on internet, amazing tutorials for learn how to use Blender and Unreal. Yes. There's another question. How do you handle performance issues at a huge volume from a scan? Oh, that's a great question, Katja. Well, you need to optimize, but unfortunately, when you have a huge, volume, for instance, we help to design and install a huge volume with the help of Kobe, because it was integrated with apps and LED walls in Dallas, Texas. It was 50 meter, that's around 157 feet by 24 feet or 28 feet. I don't remember. It's huge. It's one of the biggest in the United States. So to be able to run 25K, assets, because that's the resolution, the total resolution of that volume, we needed to have, an array of computers. The price of that array of computers for that size, it was about $500,000 only on the computers. Yeah, so yeah, it's a huge challenge when you have a huge volume. Fortunately, for 70 or 80% of your applications, if you have like from 7 or 8 actors on set or less, then you can have a much smaller volume. And a much more smaller volume can be handled by one workstation with the new 5090 computer. Of course, you need a very well-built computer because you have a lot of elements that you need to consider to have a very good computer to run on real environments. But yeah, manage to handle a small volume or mid-sized volume with just one computer. If you're curious about this, of course, we will be at NAB. Kobe is here. We will have an amazing stand in NAB with Absent and also with Visual AI, and we can explain and you can, see for yourselves the solutions we have for virtual production. Any question here regarding the photogrammetry technique? And we have another very interesting technique, much easier and faster, and this is video scan. It's also called Gaussian splatting. This technique named Gaussian splatting, instead of using a lot of photographs, you just use your camera, your video camera, and move around an object. So it is much more faster. The problem we have is that you have much more artifacts, as you can see. And because the technique is like a hybrid between actual polygons and, a cloud of points, then you are not able to, change that object. When you do a photogrammetry, your final asset will be a full 3D polygonal object. When you have this technique named Gaussian splatting, you will have like a cloud. It's like a trick. It's like a projection trick, like an optical illusion inside 3D. Then you won't be able to modify it at all. So that is the main disadvantage of it. And you will have a little bit more of artifacts, as you can see here. But if you're using that 3D model just as a background and you don't need to modify anything, Gaussian splatting is an excellent solution for having very high-end, very photorealistic, full 3D backgrounds, as you can see here. Any question? Okay. So now we will also explore, and this is very important, the DMX protocol to control, lighting fixtures. As you saw before, one of the main lighting sources is the wall itself. But also you can set up, of course, traditional lights. But I advise that if you use traditional lights, they should have DMX protocol. DMX protocol is a protocol to control them, and with a computer change their specs and their colors and of course intensity, etc., etc. So we will check out this very, very cool and interesting video regarding this solution.
I can switch my virtual production background on this LED screen to pretty much any background I want to see, just at the press of a button. And not only does the background change, but the lighting changes to match. So, how am I doing this? Well, I'm going to take you through the trick. So step one, let me get to a background like, step one is I have a bunch of backgrounds that are different VP backgrounds that I found. Actually, I found a lot of these on YouTube, so it's pretty simple. Let's take a look at one. So here's one. You can just see it's basically just a clip, just a playing clip that I can just play over and over again. Looping background, easy peasy. And I put a bunch of these into a folder so I can quickly organize them. And then in OBS, I set each one as a source. So if I click on this scene in OBS, you can see it just loads right where that clip is on my hard drive, and I can just recall that scene anytime I want. And because I have two computers in this room, there's the one that is where OBS is here in the room, and then underneath this room, there's another computer that actually drives the wall. That computer is running another instance of OBS and will receive whatever this computer is sending out. So that's how I get it from this computer to the one that's driving the screen. And I also, on the computer in the other room, have a program that is controlling the lights. So you can see in this room, I've got 2 front lights and a NAN light overhead. So the 2 front lights are Lightgear Spectrum 4 light mats. And above me is the Nanlite Forza 60C, which is a beautiful little backlight. It gives me this light over here. And I can control exactly what those things are looking at using NTEC's ELM Pixel Mapper software. So each one of these guys corresponds to a particular light. Let's see if I can drag this around. So you can see, like, as I drag this little line, this represents the 4 pixels in that light gear, and I can just put that wherever I want on the desktop to sample that piece of the image, and it corresponds to what is behind me. So the lights, as you can see, if I change now, everything will synchronize up to that. So as the image changes, the lights are sampling a different part of that screen as the new image comes up, and the color of the background instantly synchronizes with the lights. Fun. So now finally, how do I have this set up to where I can control everything at the push of a button? Well, if you look over here, you can see I have a little Stream Deck that's been programmed to control OBS. So each one of these little buttons corresponds to a different scene.
Okay, and now I want to stress out something there. He controls these setups with those buttons, but you can also program Unreal. So the Unreal software can change and can synchronize even with the movement of the camera for the lighting to change. So that technique is called pixel mapping. When you use the Unreal software to pixel map all the characteristics, all the, the lighting, environment in the virtual world, that of course affects the actual physical, practical lights on your set. So it's amazing because you can make everything automatic in a volume. Is that clear? Any question? So now we will explore a little bit of post-production and also artificial intelligence, how we use artificial intelligence, because there's 2 ways, of course, and this is very important, 2 ways to do backgrounds. The ways we explored before are full 3D backgrounds. They're totally 3D, but you can also have plates. If something is, very in the back, in the background, and it's kind of very far away, then you can do plates, and plates is like video, standard video, not 3D. If you don't need that much of a parallax, and remember that parallax is the technique when you see how the perspective change, because your shot design doesn't need parallax, then you can get away with plates. And the amazing thing is that you can do plates with artificial intelligence now, or you can mix an actual plate with a amazing, VFX to make a fantastic plate. And we will see an example here.
Let's dive into it.
Check out this plate.
Let me show you how we made this using Firefly Image 3 and After Effects. Let's dive into it. All right, so I have my clip here in After Effects. I have to make a still frame of this, so I'll go to Composition, Save Frame As, File. And that's gonna make a PSD, so I'll bring that into Photoshop to make a JPEG. And now I'll jump over to firefly.adobe.com, link is down below. And I'll add my prompt, and I'll hit Generate. So in my settings here on the left, you could see I'm using Firefly Image 3. Aspect ratio will be 16:9. And down in the structural reference section, I'll hit upload image and I'll upload my screenshot. So what structural reference does is it takes the actual structure of your scene, and based on your prompts, you could transform the scene while maintaining the same structure, which allows for some pretty crazy compositing. Anyway, I have my structural reference. And before I generate, I'll select a few of the effects down here. And now I'll hit generate. Now these examples are good, but I'd like to make it more of a photograph to match my video. So I'll select photo instead of art, and I'll hit generate again. Okay, very nice. I'll use this one. So I'll download that and bring it into Photoshop with my original image, and I'm going to select around my subject here using the selection tool. So with that selection, I'll reveal my firefly layer, and I'll delete that section. And I'll actually remove the foreground parts as well. Now it looks a little sloppy, but we have to blend our layers together. So I'll go to Layer, Merge Visible, and I'll select the edges of my two layers where my two layers meet. And I'll hit delete. So with that alpha part still selected, I'll expand my selection by a pixel or two. Now hit Generative Fill, and I'll leave it blank and hit Generate. And it blends these in really nice. So I just wanted to show you quick before I bring this back into After Effects. I just isolated part of the mountain here as a separate layer, and I added a couple of foreground elements just to sell the effects. So bringing this into After Effects as a composition, I'll bring this right into my comp. Looks great. Now I have to motion track my video layer. So I'll go to Animation, Track in Boris FX Mocha, and I'll click on the Mocha icon. And now in Mocha, I'll select the X-Spline tool, and I'll roughly select my mountaintop here. Once I have that selected, I'll select Show Surface and Align Surface to make the output the same size of my comp. I'll unselect Skew because we don't need that, and Track Forward. And I'll speed this up for you. You can see the track looks really good. And I'll save this and go back to After Effects. And I'll drop down Tracking Data, and I'll click Create Track Data. Hit OK. And Layer Export To, I'll select my PSD layer, and I'll hit Apply Export. So before I show the final result, I added a couple of moving elements like this fan and some dust particles, and I made sure to hide the PSD layers that I don't need. And here it is.
Amazing, isn't it? Very cool.
And here it is. And okay. And Layer Export To, I'll select my PSD.
So yeah, I have a question from B. Dixon. And he asked me about how everything is calibrated with the camera. This is the basic, very basic setup. And of course, the track camera, it means that the tracking system sends the position information in full 3D, volume, in a full 3D space of the camera. So the background can react exactly, very, very good calibrated. And it can match the floor, actually. When you have elements from the floor, you calibrate everything so the perspective matches perfectly. So the result is that you cannot tell where the actual LED wall begins, where the physical floor ends and the virtual floor begins. And that's awesome. And it's very achievable. It's a very, very cool, result when you are struggling to see where the physical part begins and where it ends and where the virtual part begins, so it matches perfectly. So yeah, everything is tracked to the camera and everything is handled. So Unreal Engine, the software, the real-time, software can, react perfectly without any lag, without any delay to the camera movement, even when you have handheld. As you know, handheld is very difficult. So yeah, everything goes to Unreal. Everything everything is controlled and synchronized by Unreal. There are a couple of softwares that also helps you with this, such as Disguise, Pixera, Resolume, and some others. But the main tool is the Unreal Engine. Did I answer your question, Mr. Dixon? Okay, so let's move on. Now, I want to share to you case studies, and one of the main, difficult case studies we have is this movie, Train Dreams. It was made for Black Bear Pictures. Black Bear is an amazing production company. They did last year Long Legs. They did, one of my favorites is Imitation Game. That's the biopic about Alan Turing, the inventor of the computer. And they were nominated for an amazing movie with Annette Bening and with Jodie Foster named Niat, about a swimmer. And they're great. They're great. And fortunately for us, the director of this movie, Clint Bentley, was nominated a couple of weeks ago at the Oscars. And also Felicity Jones, that was in this movie, was nominated, as you know. So this was really challenging because it was about a forest fire, and a forest fire is very difficult. The director didn't want to use green screen because of the problems with green screen. And they explored a way to do it practical. But as you know, to do practical fire is very challenging and actually is very, it's kind of dangerous. You have to invest a lot on safety measures, and you need to invest a lot of money in liability and insurance and bonds and this and that, and this and that. So the best solution was to do it with virtual production. So let's see the case study. Sorry about that.
I'm Clint Bentley, and I'm the director of Train Dreams.
Talk to us a little bit about the movie.
Train Dreams is a movie based on the novella by Dennis Johnson, and it stars Joel Edgerton and Felicity Jones in a story about, it really tells the story of this one man's life, Robert Grenier, who's a logger and an itinerant laborer who lives from the early 1900s until the 1960s, and sees the world just completely change around him as his whole industry of logging and kind of expanding westward, as all of that becomes mechanized and industrialized, and he kind of feels life pass on beyond.
Okay, well, I want to talk a little bit about the story of Train Dreams project. It was an amazing project. And I received this call from Bosler Studios. And after this call, they say they had this very interesting project regarding forest fire. So they asked us if we could do virtual set assets and in-camera VFX about this huge forest fire. We flew to the actual studio to work directly with their rendering nodes and media servers. The problem was that we didn't know exactly why, but hours before the shooting, the system stopped working. Totally. Absolutely.
What's happening, Sebastian? Why is not working?
Just press enter and see.
When we're inside, that's I was just about to say no.
I don't get it.
Algo está raro.
Pues como son tecnologías nuevas y como todo va muy rápido, muchas cosas han salido mal en el proceso. El tracking no funciona, el 3D no funciona, ¿no? El programa no corre, no carga, se va lenta la pantalla, no prende la pantalla. Van muchos problemas en el proceso.
And we were trying to figure out what the challenge, what the problem was.
Every project has some unique issues. In this particular case, this recent project, we had some shooting at some special frame rates, which are really interesting. And so, we're rapidly adjusting. So it might be an Unreal Engine, it might be exporting very 12K plates, but being able to do that rapidly on the spot. So having their team critical part of the process with integrated here at every stage is vital. So it's the previs, it's the creating the worlds, it's the going back and forth to iteration, and then being on set, running the wall and the volume, and having the artist here that can demand to whatever the director needs.
Parte de mi trabajo como técnico es solucionar esos problemas y hacerlo de la manera más eficiente posible todo aquí, de cómo generar estos escenarios fotorrealistas lo mejor posible, pero que también lo aguante la computadora y que todo esté corriendo en tiempo real, ¿no?
So finally, our amazing researchers and operators found the solution. They did this magic with a little bit of coding and a little bit of resetting of stuff. And at the final hour, at the final moment, we got it.
It worked! It worked!
You guys did an awesome job. I mean, it's, provided the CG environment in Unreal, CG renders that you're able to throw up there. This was the right decision to go this route for this project.
It's just been a great experience working with iDigital, and they're great collaborators, and every step of the way they were able to take direction and really hone in specifically on what our director's vision. It's been great.
Everybody, who's been helping us from both companies has been so wonderful and so collaborative and helpful to the process. It's just been incredibly easy and a wonderful experience.
Hi, it has been such an extraordinary experience working with these screens. It makes our job so much easier because so much of our imagination is done for us, because it just is, you're not acting to nothing. So it's been such a tremendous experience, and I think the effect is going to look fantastic with the finished film for Train Dreams.
Oh, it was awesome because it was our first Hollywood level movie, and it was a total and absolutely success.
We were talking to a few different partners, or potential partners, to see who could create that content for us. And as soon as we got the first tests, even the very rough tests from iDigital, those tests were just head and shoulders above anything else that anybody had sent through. And it was just very clear immediately that these were the people to work with.
So yeah, that's one of the most challenging productions we had. So of course you have not only filmmaking, but also you have advertising, and you have gaming and XR, and you have interactive applications like for museums, and you have also for concerts, you have all these potential using virtual production and content. Here's a very, very famous example.
I am not a witness here to call you in for the things that you done or the thing that you did. I am not a raincoat here to keep you warm. Then go back in the closet after the storm. And I'm not the shadow of anyone you've been. All I am is a friend, your friend to the end. All I am is a friend, your friend to the end. All I am is a friend, your friend to the end. All I am is a friend, your friend to the end. Thank you.
So yeah, you have a lot of applications for virtual production. Here we have a little example that we did these music videos. We did 4 music videos as a tribute for everyone affected with LA fires. And here's a little bit.
My name is Pete Molinari, and it's my wife, Mila Molinari. We recently had a call from our good friend Gabriel Beristain about filming here today something that would be really substantial and poetic to do with the recent LA fires. And yeah, recently everything went pretty haywire in LA, and it was very sad to see a lot of people affected. Some people that we know and others.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love the city. It's a city of dreams and magic, so anything I could do, contribute to keep this magic up in this town. There's so much beauty, there's so much love and community in this place, and it's really nice love letter to this city and Hollywood. I'm very happy to be part of it.
I'm Lauren Carr-Reed, and this is Sam Winhall. We're excited to be here because we all love Los Angeles. Me and Sam were both born and raised here, and we're excited to be a part of something that is for a good cause, as the fires have been so devastating. But I love to see that people are making art out of it. So that's amazing.
Yeah. So as we see, as a summary, the big advantages are that you have full control of it. You have an amazing lighting source. You have complete, freedom to imagine anything and apply anything or almost anything on virtual production. So it's an amazing tool. And the the great news now is it is much more affordable to own a set or rent a set nowadays. We have an amazing set in Anaheim, California, volume that's pretty affordable to rent per day. And also, as you know, we have an academy. So we will do a hands-on workshop that will will happen in Anaheim, California, actually. And it will consist in 4 days online of theory and 2 days hands-on, full days hands-on. So the main goal is to finish with an actual music video, a complete music video produced on virtual production, so you can learn hands-on all the techniques related to virtual production. So let me.
Are you ready to lead the future of filmmaking? In a world where AI and virtual production are revolutionizing the filmmaking industry, don't let your profession be left behind. Certify yourself with the skills and expertise to thrive in the new era of filmmaking. Join our intensive workshop, where you'll gain hands-on experience with cutting-edge technologies like virtual production and AI, metahumans, and more. Dive deep into the full virtual production filmmaking workflow, all while working at a virtual production studio. Learn from Hollywood experts, including Gabriel Sebastian Reyes, a speaker at Cannes Film Festival and Royal Television Society nominee. Gain the practical experience you need to stay ahead in this fast-evolving field. Don't just adapt, become irreplaceable. The workshop includes 4 days online and 2 days with practical sessions at Visu AI Studios in Anaheim, California. Don't wait for change. Be the one who leads it. How to become a virtual production super producer. Workshop by iDigital Creative Studio and Visuai Studios.
So right now, Maria will send again the registration if you're interested. The main question is when this is going to happen. We need at least 10 students to make this happen. So if you're interested, please register on the form so we can set up a date to begin with. And also, I have a surprise for you guys because, well, here it is. Here it is, the QR code. And oh, here's the form. Actually, okay. Sorry about this. I don't know why. Okay. So we will be, as I said, also an NAB. If anyone is interested, please let us know. And the good news is that we have a free access to the expo for you guys. So usually it costs around 120, the access to NAB. But if you write to us and you fill the form, then we can give away a free access to the NAB Expo. We will be with Absent and with Visual AI, and we can, of course, show you direct hands-on demos of virtual production applications over there in Las Vegas, Nevada. So We also will be this year at Machedo Film in Cannes Film Festival. If anyone is attending, of course, we can chat over there. And please, follow us in our social media, of course, in our social platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and whatnot, and let us know what do you think. Any final question? Actually, I have a comment also from Mr. Dixon regarding the importance of calibrating the color. And yeah, let me go back and show you. Here it is. RT color, real-time color. Everything, it's very important to bring to the set, as Mr. Dixon said, high-end color technicians. And yes, we use scopes, we use vector scopes, we use, of course, charts, all kind of charts. So the real-time colorist is able to, of course, match and calibrate the color on the LED wall and make sure that it matches with the actual performance of the camera sensor. And it's different between cameras, and that's also a frequent asked question, what camera do you use? And we use a lot of Red cameras because Red has amazing, tools. The new Red cameras were designed for virtual production, specifically. And the models, the Komodo model is amazing, and right now is $3,000. Is the price is, absolutely amazing now of the Red Komodo camera, and it's amazing, and it's a great camera for virtual production. It was designed for virtual production, actually. And of course, you have the Raptor also. It's more expensive, but it's also a great camera for virtual production. Of course, Arri Alexas are amazing also for virtual production. Blackmagic cameras, the new models, specifically the 12K camera is very good for virtual production. The Venice series of cameras, the Burano is, I had my comments on that because the sensor is kind of on the slow side of the response, but Venice cameras from Sony are amazing for virtual production. What about running 4D? I don't know. Never tested before and never read about the running 4D. It's a very, very interesting question, and maybe soon enough we can test that. If Dean, I don't know if you're in LA, but if you are around Anaheim, we can test that in our studio. Also, I'm in London. So yeah, it's about testing. It's very important to test those cameras. When you have high-end production, it's very important for the camera to have gen lock, so you can sync. If you change the frame rate of the sensor, you need to sync and match that frame rate with your LED wall and the processor of the LED wall. So it is very important to have a gen lock to sync everything. Any other questions, guys? So please register if you're interested in both the hands-on workshop, 1-week workshop, and or NAB attendance. Katja said we even do CEO speeches too to make them less boring. Oh, of course. So Katja, you already use LED walls as solution, right? Great. Any final questions, guys? Okay, well, thank you very much. Oh, amazing. Where do you have the studios, Katja? In Germany? Great, amazing. Berlin, amazing. Great. Okay, let's talk about maybe a collaborate together, Katja, because one of our specialties is, of course, the content design, the content development, full 3D, 2D, 2.5D. So yeah, I will ask Fernanda to keep the loop, and let's chat soon enough, Katja, please. I see. Perfect. Okay, guys. Any final questions? Kobe, yeah, of course. See you this Friday, hopefully. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Please, again, fill the forms. And if you have any questions, let us know through our social media or our email that, of course, you will receive all our information with the response from the forms. Thank you very much, guys. See you soon. Bye.